Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya, Surya Koti Samaprabha, Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva, Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaste and a hearty welcome to one and all for today's 10th session of our series Selected Bhagavad Gita Verses for Daily Living. Today, we shall be covering verses 23 and 28 from Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga and verses 1 and 2 from Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. These verses 16.1 and 2, from these verses we learn Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. We learn thus the worship without virtue is hollow and virtue without God remembrance is incomplete. We learn that all sacred actions, may it be yagna, dhana or tapaha, should be rooted in the remembrance of the Supreme Brahman. Spiritual acts become sanctified only when performed in God consciousness and Ishwararpana Bhava, selfless attitude. In verse 28 of the 17th chapter, we learn that any sacrifice, charity or austerity performed without Shraddha is called asat, unreal and fruitless. True spirituality is not in form alone, but in faith and character. These profound verses shall be explained by Srimati Chetana, Dr. Divakar, Srimati Dola Amitabh Saharai, and Srimati Kirti Sridhar. After each presentation, the speaker will test our understanding with a few teaching quiz questions to be answered by the moderator. Let us be alert, understand and be enlightened with this divine knowledge. Sri Shailendra shall be moderating the session. He will highlight the key aspects of these verses for our better assimilation. Over to Shailendra sir.
Thank you, Shikumarji. Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. So, dear friends, today we are in chapter 17 and 16. As we, just to recap, so we know that in Bhagavad Gita, it is divided into 3 sections by 6 chapters each. Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga and Jnana Yoga, which is purification of mind, integration of mind and enlightenment or removal of ignorance. So we are in the last part of this last section, where 13 to 18, where we started our journey from the reverse. We covered 18, which is Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. Today we are in 17 and 16 chapters. So before that, 13, 14 and 15 chapters comes under the Vedanta. So that is, what is the goal? That is, if you see on the either side, the moksha is the goal, and also Vedanta, the self-knowledge, which is explained in 13, 14, 15, which is capable of giving us the liberation and capable of giving freedom from samsara. But it requires a lot of preparation and requires a prepared mind. So in this context, Krishna has explained this, what is required to achieve the goal in chapter 16 and 17. So this comes under Veda Purva, and it is a way of life that we should know how to reach the goal. So way of life, without the proper way of life, we cannot achieve the goal. And the way of life is again dependent on the character. We'll come to that. So this is exclusively dedicated for character building and Krishna explains in detail the prepared mind, the sattvic state of mind, and what all preparations are required. So in this 16, the Daivasura Sampad, Vibhaga Yoga, and Shraddhatra Vibhaga Yoga. So here, if you see, as I mentioned, goal of life, which is self-knowledge, requires way of life, and way of life in turn is dependent on the character. So all these three are interlinked. So Atma Gnanam can work only when a particular way of life is also adhered to. So that is, to achieve the Atma Gnana or moksha, we need to have follow a particular way of life. And Vedantic study really does not take time, but cultivating virtues alone will take more time. That means if we have to achieve the goals, we need to do a lot of preparation and we need to cultivate these virtues. So in chapter 17 summary, we have already seen earlier. Just to recap, verse 1 to 6 talks about the Krishna asks the starts with asking the question regarding the faith, and we have learned about what is worship method, motive, deity, in which we also have seen the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic way of living. So in 7 to 22, explained about the fourfold Haharti Chaturshastyam, which is about Hahara, food, Yagna, worship, Tapa, discipline, and Dhanam, charity. So this we have already seen in the previous sections. And in the third section of this chapter, in between verse 23 to 28, so Krishna deals with the significance of this famous mantra or Maha Mantra called Om Tat Sat. So three mantras of the Lord is combined in this one, and this was used by Brahmaji in the beginning of the creation. And it's very important and is capable of converting Rajasic and even Tamasic actions into Sattvic. And chant any word or chant all the three words we can chant, and it can be chanted in the beginning or at the end. So here developing virtue as per Puja Paramatmanandaji, based on this, of course, based on the scriptures, says if we follow these five things, that is prarthana, satsanga, sankalpa, pratipaksha bhavana, and viveka, we can achieve the sattvic and make Vedanta work for us. So driving dive into the section which we are seeing today, we are going to hear more about 17.23 and 17.28. So as I mentioned, Om Tat Sat, which is considered to be threefold designation of Brahman, and by uttering this is the Brahmins, the Vedas, and the Yagnas were created long ago. So in between 1723 and 1728, we can see when Om is uttered, Tat is uttered, and Sat is uttered. And in the 1727 steadfastness in Yagna, Sarisi, and charity also is called Sat. So we will deep dive into these two profound verses, 17.23 and 17.28. And I will pass it on to Chetana Madam and followed by Divakar without my intervention. Over to you, Chetana Madam.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So from the 23rd verse up to the end of this chapter, Lord Krishna gives us the significance of this well-known mantra, Om Tat Sat. This mantra is important because it is associated with all religious activities, especially at the time of conclusion. For example, every chapter of the Gita ends with Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su, etc. and so on. In the next slide, we'll see Krishna highlighting the significance of this Om Tat Sat by saying, Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho brahmanas trividah smritaha brahmanas tena vedascha yajnascha vihita puraha. Next slide, please. Lord Krishna says, Om Tat Sat a trivida nirdeshaha. Nirdesha means the names. They are the threefold names of Brahman. Here, Brahman means Ishvara or God. So, Om Tat Sat are the threefold names of Ishvara, where Om means the protector of everything, especially the devotee. Tat means the Lord is beyond all the six instruments of knowledge. In other words, he is incomprehensible. And the word Sat means it is the eternal principle that ever exists in the form of existence itself. Here, Om Tat Sat is the eternal, incomprehensible, hence Om Tat Sat is the eternal, incomprehensible protector of this universe. Next slide, please. Now, because Brahmaji uttered this mantra, it has become a convention for the spiritual seekers to chant this mantra during their spiritual sadhanas. And since this mantra is powerful, by its very utterance, one can convert the Rajasic and Tamasic activities into Sattvic activities. Next slide. Now, Ishvara has got several names, and why should Krishna highlight only these three names? So he says, Tena, by uttering or chanting these three names, Om Tat Sat, Vihitas Purar, these wonderful creations have been made by Brahmaji. And which creations among all of them? Yajnas, Vedas, and Brahmanas. Next slide, we'll see the significance of them. Why are they wonderful? According to him, through yajnas, we have a wise way of living by using the knowledge gained through Pancha Mahayajnas. And the word yajna means a lifestyle in which our human beings will wisely use all its superior powers for constructive purposes. But if this yajna way of life is absent, this knowledge and power will be cause only human destruction. So yajna alone can sustain this universe. Next slide. What about the Vedas? Vedas are the scriptures which teach us the Pancha Mahayajnas, the right and harmonious way of living. And therefore, Vedas become important to us understand this wisdom. Thus, the Vedas promote the yajnas, which in turn sustains the creation. And who are the Brahmanas? They are the preservers and promoters of the Veda. Any human being, irrespective of caste, profession, or gender, who studies, preserves, and promotes the Vedas is a Brahmana. Next slide. Thus, the Brahmana sustains the Vedas sustains the Yajna way of life, and the Yajna sustains the creation. Therefore, sustenance of this creation requires these three factors, and that's why Krishna has highlighted it. In the next slide, what happens if it is not done accordingly? If there are no Brahmanas, the Vedas will die. If Vedas die, Yajnas and Brahmanas also collapse. And if Yajnas and Brahmana is there, the harmonious way of life would also be extinct. And therefore, this wonderful creation, including Brahmanas, Yajnas, and Vedas, has emerged from Brahmaji only after the utterance of Om Tat Sat mantra. Hari Om. Can we move on to the quiz, please? Now, what is the primary reason Lord Krishna specifically highlight the three names Om Tat Sat among Ishvara's many names? I'll give you the options. A, they are the easiest to pronounce for all people. They were the names used by Brahmaji at the beginning of creation, establishing a sacred convention. They correspond directly to the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and they are the only names mentioned in the Vedas.
Yeah. So it's not A, B, A, C, or D. So it is B, which is they were the names used by Brahmaji at the beginning of creation, establishing a sacred convention.
Yes. Next one, please. What is the transformative power attributed to the utterance of Om Tat Sat mantra in one's spiritual activities? The options are: it guarantees immediate success and desired fruit of any action. It has the power to convert Rajasic and Tamasic activities into Sattvic ones. It allows one to bypass the need for performing rituals, and it enables the devotee to see the form of the Lord directly.
As clearly explained, I think the answer is B, which is it has the power to convert Rajasic and Tamasic activities into Sattvic ones.
Yes. Third question. What is the correct sequence of this interdependent chain for sustaining a harmonious creation? First one, Brahmanas, Yajnas, Vedas, which sustains the creation. Vedas, which support the Yajnas, which supports the Brahmanas, and then the creation. Brahmanas, Vedas, Yajna, creation, or Yajna, Brahmana, Vedas, or creation.
Yeah, it's either A or C, but Brahmana creates the Veda and then Yajna and creation. So it goes that way. So the answer is C.
Next one. The fourth question. In this context, the term Brahmana is best defined as A person born into a specific caste or family lineage, any human being who through precept and practice preserves and promotes Vedic wisdom, a priest who performs ritualistic fire sacrifices, an ascetic who has renounced all worldly duties.
The answer is B, because the human being is the one who preserves and promotes the Vedic wisdom. So Brahmana relates to B, which is the answer.
Yes. And the last one. What is the meaning of the phrase Om Tat Sat? The beginning, the middle, and the end of all things, the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer, the eternal, incomprehensible protector of the universe, and the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Yeah, it is C, the eternal, incomprehensible protector of the universe.
Yes. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Chitana Madam. Over to you, Mr. Divakar.
Thank you, sir. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We'll move to the next slide. 17th chapter, Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga, as we know, comes in the Charama Shatkam of the Bhagavad Gita. Along with the Gnana Yoga and Jivatma Paramatma Aikya Vichara, this Shatkam, this 6 chapters, also covers the values or the virtues one should possess in order to elevate in their spiritual pursuit. Swamiji says, and we have also heard this earlier, that the most difficult aspect is cultivating these values and virtues and practicing them every day. Learning about Brahma Vidya and this knowledge is relatively easy, but following these virtues, which are covered in almost every chapter, particularly the 13th, then the 16th and 17th chapters are dedicated for these values and virtues, and cultivating them and practicing them is the most difficult task. Therefore, Krishna sees this as, this is the most challenging thing and emphasizes almost in the end of the Bhagavad Gita through Arjuna to all of us, because we are also in a similar situation like Arjuna. 17th chapter, as we know, is the Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Deals with the Shraddha. Shraddha means our strong adherence to the Shastras and Vedas, our devotion to the Vedas without questioning. That without questioning comes only when we understand it properly in the right context. It is not the blind faith, but analytically analyzing it through the gurus, through mananam, we accept the Veda Pramana and then follow these virtues or the values according to the dharma which is explained in the Vedas. And that is the Shraddha. In this chapter itself, like the 14th chapter and the 16th, gunas are talked about. How we all have the combination of these 3 gunas, sattvic, rajasic, and then tamasic gunas, and how each of us perform these 4 important topics of yagna, which is our offering or sacrifice. Our day-to-day work is a form of yagna. How a sattvic person does, how a rajasic and a tamasic, and likewise the tapas, the austerity aspect that one will have to follow, and the dhanam, the charity, not only in the form of material dhanam, but also our words, the wisdom that we pass on, all of that is dhanam as well as the karma, the actions that we do is highlighted in this particular slide, which I'm not going into the details. This can be referred to later on. What's important is to note the color coding. Sattvic is put in golden color, Rajasic is in brown, and Tamasic, of course, is in gray. We will move to the next slide and see the very powerful and the famous mantra of Om Tat Sat that was explained beautifully by Chaitanya ma'am. You can see it has the power of almost changing the, you can see the progression of this grayish colored and brownish colored gunas to the golden colored sattvika guna. Again, it is not blindly, if one chants everything will go away, and that's not the message which is given. By doing that, by chanting this, one knows the deeper meaning of it and starts to abide in the inner essence of this mantra along with the value systems. Only then their gunas can also be changed. Now, with that, we will move to the next slide, which is the 28th verse. So, if one can change the gunas, there is a big hope for all of us, which means what? We all think that our personalities can never be changed. Even in modern psychology and mental health profession, we know that it is very, very difficult to change one's personality traits because of their strong impressions, vasanas. And these traits are developed from the late childhood and adolescent period, and they almost become our second nature without us knowing. At the subconscious level, we all react in a certain pattern because of our personality traits. Now, here Bhagavad Gita is telling that these things can be changed, and we also know through psychological means that it can be changed, but it's a Herculean task. But with a proper guidance and following certain things, one could change these gunas also. This is the last verse of the 17th chapter. The chapter begins with the Shraddha, and here Krishna warns Arjuna and all of us that how certain things cannot be done and should not be done. So, Ashraddhaya Hutam Dattam Tapastatvam Kritanchayat Asad iti uchyate partha nacha nacha tat pretya na iha. So this is a very important verse. We will move on to the next slide. So here it is talking about how any actions that we do, if we do it without a purpose, without a meaning, without shraddha, it is that action has no meaning at all. Asat here means that action is unreal. We shouldn't confuse this to mithya. This is not sat and asat in that context. Here asat means mithya, or it is unproductive, or spiritually it is worthless action. One will not progress further at all. Now this is such a practically loaded verse in that we can relate to this in our own day-to-day life, be it our actions at home, our actions at work, or in the society. If we don't have a sincerity in the roles that we do, then it has no meaning. Timapasa repeats this repeatedly. We all have to do our roles sincerely. We all wear different hats every time, and this is like a different role in a drama. But each drama, one will have to do it very, very sincerely, but not seriously. Sincerely means what? As a karma yogi. Seriously, if we are doing, we are a karmi. So if we don't do it sincerely, it is as good as doing these karmas. And it's like offering any oblations onto the dead ashes. Which means what? If we offer anything to the dead ash, that oblations are never carried to the respective deities. Therefore, even in the yagnas, in homas, one will have to do oblations when there is flame, when there is big flame. Only in the middle one will offer the oblations. So it is a total waste of our time, energy, and resources. Not just that. If there is no purpose, if there is no sincerity, if there is no value, all these things, all our actions, be it at home or work, will lead to significant psychological problems. Stress, depression, anxiety, you name it. And in our day-to-day profession, we see this on a daily basis, starting from students till the most evolved professional. And it leads to not just the psychological, conditions, problems. it will also translate to physical conditions. Here this verse says, can we go back to the previous verse once again, sir? Previous slide, yes, thanks. So without this faith, any of the things that we do, be it yagna, dana, or tapas, is asat. And if you do it, there is no benefit here, which means what? There is no material benefit, nor there is a benefit after the death. We'll move to the next slide, which means we all do all of our actions for our material benefit. We need some happiness, we need money, we need comfort. Yes, we do get it, but it won't be a lasting benefit. And definitely there is no spiritual growth for these people. It fructifies neither here nor afterwards. This direct summary from the scripture highlights the total futility of our faithless acts. Next slide, sir. So you can see the difference here. When we do any acts sincerely, sincere role play, so it means what? Then it is like a karma yoga, karmanyeva adhikaraste. Then there is focus, then there is purpose, then there is fulfillment within the job itself. Whatever comes after that, be it our salary, be it our promotions, be it any accolades we get, that is a bonus. That is something that we get. We are already fulfilled with the task itself, with the act itself. Whereas if we are not focusing on this, we are quiet, we get bored, there is burnouts, and even to a point where people get into depression and get suicidal thoughts also. And what about in relationships? Same things. If we are sincere, there is an undivided attention given to our partners, be it home, be it elsewhere. There is a genuine bonding. Otherwise, physically we are present, we are very close, but emotionally very distant. And health also. Some people, in the pursuit of wanting to be very healthy, they take extreme measures like running forever or fasting or going on some very, very severe diet patterns. All of them are considered as tamasic. If we are severely punishing our body, we also know it not only affects our imbalance of the equilibrium, but it can also lead to some medical conditions also. And if it doesn't work, they also get very dejected easily. So one will have to view their own body as a temple. Deho devara prokto jivo deva sanatanaha. We have heard that. And also the famous mantra in the 18th chapter, Sve Sve Karmanya Virataha Samsiddham Labate Naraha Swakarma Nirata Siddhim Yatha Vindati Tachruno. Here the important word is abhirataha, which means if one does their swadharma, their own jobs, with a lot of compassion, a lot of love, if you accept the job you do and do it happily, there is nothing like it. Then there is not only material growth, but there is also spiritual growth. Swamiji tells this, either we have to choose the job based on our gunas. We all have different gunas. We should know what is our guna, have that emotional insight about ourselves, have that EQ, emotional quotient, good EQ to know about ourselves and choose a job. If that is not possible, love the job that you are doing. There is no question of doing a job without love. There are famous quotes there. Dale Carnegie says, people rarely succeed unless they have fun in what they are doing. If there is no fun in work, if you are complaining a lot about your work, there is no point working there. And also, Noel Coward says, work is more fun than the fun itself. So how we accept each role, be it at home, be it a homemaker or a teacher or a doctor, anyone or a student, we all have to love what we do. Then our concentration improves, our emotional health improves. Next slide. So therefore, Krishna tells us, teaches us on how we should cultivate our life, how we should progress, and how we should inculcate these value systems. And Swamiji specifically brings out 5 different values which are already talked about. In the next slide you will see in the end of this chapter, along with what the values which are highlighted, Swami Paramarthananda ji beautifully brings out these 5 different aspects in addition to what has been told already. In this, the 3 are foundational methods, which are nothing but the prayer or prarthana. Prarthanas are very, very effective. And then satsang. This is a satsang, participating in this regularly will help us grow together internally as well as a group. And then sankalpa, auto suggestion, consciously picking the positive thoughts and then developing it over a period of time. And then two advanced methods to counter as a counteraction and education, which is pratipaksha bhavana. Especially when we get some automatic negative thoughts, we have to consciously negate it by giving a positive thought. If there is a cynicism or a pessimistic thought which comes, we have to introduce an optimistic thought and then negate that pessimistic thought, because our very nature is one of ananda. It is not that of having to suffer every day. And then, of course, viveka. Viveka is, as we know, it's discrimination. But in this context, it is the EQ, emotional intelligence, emotional quotient one will have to develop and know about their own gunas, their own personality, their own drawbacks, and start working on that. And only then, even a tamasic person can progress to rajasic and then progress to sattvic personality. Next slide, sir. We will have a look at the. And then, of course, developing this virtues will only mean that the knowledge which is gained, the self-knowledge is a must. But these virtues will prepare the ground for that seeds to be, seeds to develop into saplings. So that virtues are so important. So when we have read about Upanishads or Bhagavad Gita, the question asked is how many Upanishads has gone through you, instead of saying I have gone through 10 Upanishads or the Bhagavad Gita. How much of this has gone through us is the question that Swamiji asks us. So that's something that we have to reflect on ourselves. Next slide, sir. Yeah, this is a question, some couple of questions based on this. How is Shraddha specifically defined in the context of the Vedic ritual? Your options: blind adherence to tradition without understanding the Sanskrit mantras, or is it total acceptance of the validity of the scriptures, or is it feeling of emotional devotion when performing rituals, or is it the ability to provide logical rationale for every ritualistic action?
Yeah, it is definitely not 1, 3 or 4, but it's total acceptance of validity of the scriptures. Pramanam is the right answer.
You're absolutely right. It looks like you have found out the key, sir. Most of the answers are put in the second one. So the second question: what is the consequence of performing noble acts like charity, dhanam? In this verse, it is told as dattam, or austerity, which is tapas, without faith. If there is no shraddha, according to this verse, what is the consequence? So they are considered asat and yield no fruits here or hereafter, which means there are no material or spiritual benefits. Or is it results in papa, yielding to lower births in the next janma? Or is it there are partially effective if the mantra Om Tat Sat is recited later on? Or is it they provide material wealth without spiritual growth?
As the verse itself talked about asat, it was clearly mentioned that it was without faith. So the answer here is they are considered asat and yield no fruit year or hereafter.
That is the right answer. And the last question. Inferring from this shloka, what is the result of working in a profession one dislikes? If we don't like, if we hate the work that we do, what is the consequence of it? It is considered, what does it mean according to this shloka? It is considered as a form of austerity and it yields material benefit. It is only a problem if a person is pursuing moksha. It is a form of ashraddha and leads the person into stress and further misery. It is better than being unemployed because it gives money for survival.
The answer here is 3. It is a form of ashraddha and leads a person into stress and misery.
That's right, sir. Thank you. I think that's all.
Thank you,
from my side.
Beautiful
Thank you, sir.
explanation.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
Yeah, moving on, we just completed the chapter 17 and we are moving into the chapter 16. So, as I mentioned earlier, earlier, we are going to talk about the first two verses in this session. So here, just to give a summary, the 16th chapter, Daivasura Sampad, is divided into three parts. If you have to divide it, 1 to 3 was, which is talking about the Daivi Sampad. So the which gives the Daivi, which is also Daiva Marga or spiritual path or the Sattvic path. Then here in this 1 to 3 verses, the Krishna totally describes about 26 divine qualities which are very conducive to Vedantic study, and says Atma Gnanam, Vedantic assimilation, that is both reception and assimilation are important, and it positively contributes to refinement and provides inner wealth of character. Whereas the remaining verses 4 to 21 gives the Asuri Sampat, talks about Asuri Sampat, basically list of unhealthy, non-spiritual and non-friendly virtues, trait behavior which adversely impact the spiritual growth. And verse 22 to 24 talks about the Shastram or structural study. So the importance of Shastram, structural study and spiritual stagnation is here. So basically, if you follow the Daivi Sampat, uh, it is very concerned, it contributes to refinement and it helps in the spiritual growth, whereas the Asuri Sampat deteriorates, that is, it takes us down, and whereas the 22-24 talks about the spiritual stagnation. So in Vedanta, the cultivating these 26 virtues alone will take more time, and Vedantic study really does not take time, but maximum time is spent in getting this Daivi Sampad. That means here it is in detail explained that okay, it is basically one has to put lot of effort to practice this to achieve the required goal. Moving on to the next slide here. So this lists out the total 26 virtues which Krishna is talking about here. In the 16.1, talks about the 9 virtues such as the abhayam, fearlessness, and all that, which we will hear from our speakers in the next subsequently. In 16.2, it is about 11 attributes that Krishna talks about. And in the final 16.3, we will hear about the remaining 6 one. So, moving on to the next speaker, we will hear about details of 16.01, followed by Kirti Madam in verse 16.02. Over to you, Dola Madam.
Namaste. So the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga, marks an important shift in Sri Krishna's teaching. Previously, in chapters 13 to 15, he spoke about the ultimate goal in human life, that is spiritual knowledge or moksha. But however, Sri Krishna felt that his teaching is complete only when he also discusses the complementary part, that is the way of life that leads to this goal. Because Atma Jnanam will work only when a particular way of life is also adhered to. Next slide. Next slide. So your way of life and your goal of life are closely related and influence each other. This includes every small detail, like right from the food you eat, or the books you read, or the entertainment you watch, or the friends you have. The way you live, in turn, determines your character. So the scriptures refer to the character traits as sampad or wealth. So since this time, for Gita revision classes, we are studying backwards from 18th chapter. There are many similarities between chapter 17 and 16. Both are describing the ways of life from Veda Purva Bhaga. Next slide. So verse 16.1 introduces 9 divine qualities. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samsuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damascha Jagnascha Sadhayastapa Arjavam. So Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Lord said, Abhayam, fearlessness, Satta Samshuddhi, purity of mind, Jnana, knowledge, Yoga, spiritual, Vyavasthiti, steadfastness, Danam, charity, Damaha, control of the senses, Yagnaha, worship, Sadhaya, study of scriptures, Tapaha, austerity, Arjavam, straightforwardness. Next slide. So 9 pillars of the foundational qualities, Daivi Sampad. So these virtues are necessary for both the reception or understanding and assimilation or internalizing the spiritual knowledge. And then only the transformation can happen. Next slide. Yeah. So Abhayam is the fearlessness or courage. Spiritual life is considered as the greatest and most challenging adventure. Therefore, it requires tremendous inner courage. And since spiritual seekers are always in the minority, the journey can be a lonely one. Swami Chinmayananda said, alone, to God alone is the path. And this courage is gained by surrendering to the Lord and seeking strength from Him. Satta Samsuddhi, purity of mind. Just as toxins harm the body, certain thought patterns are toxic for mental health. These toxic thoughts include jealousy, hatred, and fear. If they remain in the mind for a long time, they weaken the mind. Cultivation of healthy thoughts is the only way out. Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti. Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti means having steadfastness or committed pursuit, nishtha in Jnana Yoga. Knowledge, unlike wrinkles or gray hair, does not happen automatically, naturally. It must be worked out diligently. Committed pursuit involves 3 steps that we all know: Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. So Shravanam is consistent and systematic study of the scriptures under the guidance of a competent guru. Mananam, reflecting over the teachings and removing any doubts. Nididhyasanam, internalizing the knowledge to the extent that there is no disparity between what one knows and what one is. Next slide. So Danam. Danam means charity. It is considered a very difficult yet essential discipline. The primary benefit of Danam is that it serves as the only remedy for lobha or greed. Greed is a serious mental disease that comes from the sense of insecurity. This greed leads a person to constantly grab more and give less. There are other benefits of charity as well. Like it helps to maintain a healthy social order by reducing the gap between the rich and the poor. It is also acts as a perfect test of for detachment, and most importantly, it prepares us for peaceful death. Because death is the ultimate event where everything, including the body, has to be given back. That is how the saying goes: we come with nothing, fight for everything, and at the end, leave everything and go with nothing. A person who has learned to enjoy giving will look upon death as a comfortable form of dhanam. Damaha. Damaha means sense control. Indriya nigraha. Damaha is mastery over the sense organs. It is directing, not suppressing. the senses based on one's personal conviction about what is good and bad for their spiritual growth. Jajnaha, worship of the Lord. So the scriptures describe two forms of worship. Formal worship, like regular ceremonial prayers and rituals at home or in the temple. It creates an atmosphere of auspiciousness. And then conversion of activities with karma yoga attitude. So that is achieved through conversion of attitude, like bhavana parivartanam. Ishvara arpana bhavana, looking upon every action as an offering to the Lord, and prasada bhavana, preparing the mind to accept any outcome of the action without resistance as the Lord's grace. Next slide. Swadhyaya means study of the scriptures. It is also called Brahma Yagna. This study is twofold. Shabda Abritti, that is recitation, reciting the scriptures and or prayers, which is considered as a beautiful shield against all evils. And Artha Abritti, meaning, that is reciting while dwelling upon the meanings of the scriptures. Tapas. Tapas means voluntarily or deliberately accepting discomfort or pain to strengthen the body and the mind. Tapas is actually a change in attitude. So forced pain is suffering, but voluntary pain is called tapas. Examples include fasting on Ekadashi, or pilgrimages involving physical hardship, or simply consciously giving up comforts. Tapas prepares the mind to endure pain. Arjavam, integrity or straightforwardness. It is the harmonization and integration of all layers of one's personality. The 5 layers of personality is talked about in Tattvabodha. Annamaya, the physical body; Pranamaya, Manomaya, the emotional personality; Vijnanamaya, the rational or intellectual personality; and Anandamaya, the bliss state. All the different layers, which is generally expressed as the thought, the word, and the deed. So these 9 virtues from the verse 16.1 lay the groundwork for developing the Daivi Sampad. It is not just a list of virtues, it is the very architecture of a liberated life. Sri Krishna elaborated this in the 13th chapter also as Amanityam, Adambhityam, Ahimsa, Shanti, Rajyavam. So Sri Krishna continues to detail the other virtues in the subsequent verses. Thank you. So now coming to the quiz. What is the primary reason of Lord Krishna shifting the teaching in the 16th chapter from the goal of life to the way of life? Character is easier to change than the final goal of moksha. The way of life and the goal of life are closely related and must be aligned for success. The goal of moksha is automatically achieved regardless of character. The goal of life is only secondary to the way of life, which is the correct answer.
Yeah, see, without character, bending our character, moksha is difficult, and it cannot be automatically achieved, or it is not secondary. So the answer here is the way of life and the goal of life are closely related and must be aligned for the success, because they are very, very interrelated.
Correct. Yeah. What does Arjavam primarily represent in the context of personality? The harmonization of thought, word, and the deed, the strict control of all external sensory inputs, the ability to accept any situations as the Lord's grace, the systematic study of the scriptures under a teacher.
I think as you previously explained while explaining the Arjavam, including the Panchakosha, so the organization of thought, word, and deed are very important. So the answer here is A.
Right. Because Arjavam is about oneness, where one's inner thoughts and spoken words and the action are harmonized. The virtue Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti is defined as the committed pursuit involving which three complementary practices. Krodha, Lobha, and Bhayam, Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, Prasada Bhavana, and Sadhaya, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidhityasanam, Damaha, Danam, and Yajnaha.
Yeah, as we keep hearing in the various sessions, and as you also explained, so Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam are the key things for achieving the Gnana Yogita. So the answer is C. Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam.
Damaha is differentiated from suppression because Damaha is considered as a mastery where one painfully represses all desires to achieve a state of numbness, voluntarily directs the senses based on one's own conviction for spiritual growth, only follows the dictates of the sense organs without resistance, allows the mind to wander freely, trusting it will return to spiritual thoughts.
Yeah, the answer here is B because it is we have to direct voluntarily, and if through pressure, if we try to do something, it will lead to stress, strain, etc. So the answer is clearly B, which is voluntarily directs the senses based on one's own conviction for spiritual growth.
Because true Dhamma is conscious choice. It is an act of mastery. Yeah, I think that's all.
Thank you, madam. So over to Kirti, madam.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 verse 2. Ahimsa satyam akrodaha tyagaha shantihi apaisunam dayabhuteshu aloluptvam mardavam hrihi achapalam. In this verse, Sri Krishna talks about Daivi Sampat to cultivate a lifestyle conducive for Vedantic study. Next slide, sir. Ahimsa. Himsa bhava, avoidance of violence at kaika, manasika, vachika level towards all living beings. Next slide, sir. Towards all living beings with a deep commitment to non-harm, acting with selflessness, detached mind for welfare of all. A popular proverb states, as you sow, so shall you reap. If one deposits violence in our prapancha, it will come back to us alone, if not now, later. Therefore, for one's own peace of mind, one must avoid himsa. Swami Paramarthananda also explains that Bhagavad Gita never says ahimsa is absolute. There are exceptional situations. Satyam. Satyam means devotion to truthfulness in thought, word, and deed, also defined by the term asatya varjanam, which translates to avoidance of lying, abstaining from untruth. Satyam goes beyond factual correctness. It is a living honesty, pure attention that seeks to align speech and action with what is real and beneficial. It calls for sincerity, avoids deception, distortion, or manipulation for selfish ends. This quality is essential for building trust in all relationships. Akrodaha means anger management, that is, the capacity to handle the problems of anger. Anger is a natural emotion, an expression of mental or emotional pain. It is also a powerful emotion which can hurt the angry person and which can hurt the people who are around the angry person. Only the angry person knows his anger. Others see and know only the expressions of anger. Anger impacts the person's body mind functioning, leading to various consequences. In chapter 3, Sri Krishna says anger is nothing but obstructed expectations converted to irritation. To handle irritation, you must handle your desire and expectations. Only way to avoid anger is to reduce expectation, and if expectations are unavoidable, make them preferences, a non-binding one. Anger is an internal signal, and one should intelligently use it to find a remedy for its cause. Management of anger arrived is akrodaha, and non-arrival of anger is kshama. Tyagaha. Tyagaha means sanyasyaha, renunciation. External renunciation is taking to monastic life. Internal renunciation is called detachment or vairagyam. Mentally dropping the ownership notion, absence of ahankara, egoism, liberation from the sense of mine, that is freedom from mamakara. It is also willingness to voluntarily practice dana with gratitude and the mental readiness to lose the losable. Next slide, sir. Shanti. Shanti is tranquility, peace, equanimity of mind, freedom from violent emotional disturbances with inner relaxation and calmness. Shanti is an important virtue which one must maintain throughout the day. It helps to achieve Karma Yoga way of life, that is, Samatvam Yoga Uchchate. Apaisanam means not publicizing the defects of other people, absence of fault finding, and not highlighting one's own virtues repeatedly, but also express virtues of others too whenever necessary. Daya bhuteshu. Daya means compassion towards all living beings. It is an understanding and empathy towards others' suffering, which leads to non-violence and kindness. Aloluptvam is specific sense control, not yielding to temptations presented by sense objects, exercising restraint, freedom from greed, maintaining one's composure even in their presence. Example, say no to drugs, liquor, cigarette. Next slide, sir. Mardavam means gentleness in handling people and things, not being harsh or rude in words or action, gentleness or politeness in manners. Hrihi. Hrihi means modesty, which involves a sense of discernment between acceptable and unacceptable behavior and a lack of arrogance. Hrihi also means a sense of shame, healthy sense of shame. Adharmic actions depicts shamelessness. When shame restrains us from adharmic actions, that sense of shame is a worthy sense of shame. It has to be cultivated. Achapalam. Chapalam means restlessness, which is primarily a mental condition. And when the mind is highly restless, it overflows to the body level, and through body language, the person shows he is uncomfortable. Achapalam is steadiness, freedom from fickleness and restlessness of mind, so that the body is relaxed. Sri Krishna enumerates more Daivi Sampat to cultivate in the next verse. Thank you, sir. Hari Om. We move to the quiz. Question 1. Choose a concept closely associated with each of the principle of Daivi Sampat in this verse. Ahimsa.
And just give me a second to go through each of them.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the Ahimsa is Daya Bhuteshu.
Satyam,
Satyam is, we have to leave the asatya, that is asatya varchanam.
Akrodaha
Akrodaha is, we should be calm, so it is kshama.
and Tyagaha.
Tyaga is, I think, vairagyam.
Correct, sir. Shanti.
Shanti is samaha.
Correct. Apaisunam.
Vaishuna is adroha.
And Dayabhuteshu.
Nayabhuteshu is himsa abhava. So we have to be.
Right, sir. Aloluptvam.
Alolutvam is damaha.
And Mardavam.
Ardhavam relates to arjavam.
And Hrihi.
Rihi is lajja.
Achapalam.
Japalam, I think only thing left is samatvam. So samatvam is the answer.
It is free from restlessness.
Yes.
This gives the answer. We'll move to the next question. Ahimsa, non-violence, is an important spiritual virtue and a quality of divine nature. But there are cases where non-violent methods miserably fail, just as it failed in the case of Duryodhana. For the protection of Dharma, when the only available means is himsa, then there is nothing wrong with taking that option. Choose appropriate verses from the following Bhagavad Gita verses which emphasize the need to opt for himsa, fight for the protection of dharma when all non-violent methods of conflict resolution fails. The verses are from chapter 13 and from chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the yoga of discrimination and chapter 13 is kshetra kshetragnya vibhaga yoga. Next slide will give the options. 13th first option is amanitvam adambitvam, and it is, you have to decide, sir. You take time to just go through the verses.
Yeah, I'm just going through it. So looking at this and correlating to the chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, I think all the four verses listed here, that is 2.31, 2.33, 2.37, 2.18, which relates to Sankhya Yoga, where Krishna tells Arjuna there is no harm in fighting when you are in the battlefield, and also you have to do your duty. So considering all that, I think all the four things, 2.31, 2.33, 2.37, and 2.18 as the answers.
Absolutely right, sir. This 13.8 verse is just, it just gives the same virtues as mentioned in 16.2. The verse 2.18 talks about the self is eternal and our bodies have an end. So please fight, O Bharata, is what Sri Krishna says. And swadharma pi chavek chasya na vikamtu marhasi. That one, dharmayadi yuddha shreyo Kshatriya na vidyate. 2.31 are very apt and encourages Arjuna to fight. And 2.33 and 37 says, if you don't fight, you will incur sin. So please fight, is what Sri Krishna tells Arjuna. We'll move to the next question, sir. Next question. Akrodaha means capacity to handle anger. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna has a solution for us to understand and manage anger in a better way. Choose the appropriate verses from the Bhagavad Gita which explains the consequences of anger and which explains the root cause of anger and which reiterates anger management and importance of akrodaha for self-knowledge. The options are from verse 2, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5. Please go through it and kindly select the appropriate verse.
Yeah, so Going to this verse 3.37, Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajaguna Samabhava Mahasano Mahapapma Vidyenamiha Vairina Krodhat Bhavati Sammohaha
That is for that answer is for root cause of anger.
Yeah, just
3.3.
I'm going
Okay.
through it, both
Okay,
the
sir.
ones. So looking at these two verses, verse 3.37 and 2.63, I think the answer for 3.1, Krodha, anger, its consequence, verse 6.263 is the answer, which is Krodha Bhavati. Then for the 3.2, root cause of anger, so verse 3.7, Kama Esha is the answer. Then coming to the 3.3,
The next slide will give the answers, sir, for the first two.
Yeah. So,
Krodhat bhavati samoha gives the consequence of anger. So we lose the ability to discriminate, and that is it causes a lot of issues because of that. Then the second one is kama esha krodesha is anger is born out of desire, and it is a foe for us in our life. Next, the third option, sir.
so
Akrodaha, anger management.
Yeah, so here reiterate the value of anger management and importance of akrodha for self-knowledge. So I think the answer is verse 5.26 is more appropriate, though verse 4.10 and 5.23 are little closer.
Yes, sir, correct. It's in the, yes. Vitaraga bhaya krodha. भयक्रोध मन मया माम उपश्रितः बहवो ज्ञान तपसा पुता मद्भावम म आगतः. So freedom from attachment, fear and anger, and purified by fire of knowledge, people have attained my being. This is also correct, sir. And 5.26, absolute freedom exists on all sides for those self-controlled ascetics who are free from desire and anger, who have controlled their thoughts, and who have realized the self. Thank you, sir. We can go to the next. Shanti means tranquility, peace, equanimity of mind. Shanti is so important for the mind of a Vedantic student. Why?
As you explained, I think for a Vedic student who must do Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, an equanimous mind is a must have trait for being receptive to self knowledge from scriptures and to assimilate the same.
The next question is how to cultivate Shanti.
I think the answer here is 2.48, that is Yogastha Kuru Karmini Sangam.
Sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhayoho samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So perform action, O Dhananjaya. Perform action, O Dhananjaya, abandoning attachment, being steadfast in yoga and balanced in success and failure. Evenness of mind is called yoga. Last question, sir.
I think that's the quiz for today.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So yeah, thank you, madam. Thank you for that elaborate explanation, and also the quiz, which was very tricky because it was from the various other chapters also. So coming to the end, so as we saw that earlier, 26 traits are there, which we studied about 20 in 16.1 and 16.2, and in 16.3 we'll list about 6 more virtues of Daivi Sampat, and it ends with Daivam Sampadam Abhijatasya Bhavanti. That is, these divine qualities appear for one born with a divine nature. So this chapter has been important because it is giving us the Manushya Samskara, and Swamiji tells Samskara Ananta Ara Eva Gnanam Moksham Dadati. So let us continue to go through this chapter in the next sections. So, Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Sat Sat Iti. Over to you, Shivakumar.
On behalf of Param Vedanta, I thank Sri Shailendra and all the speakers of the day. I also thank all those who have joined us for this session. Friends, remember to join us at 6:45 p.m. on Friday, 9th February 2026 for the 31st session of our Mananam series, where important mantras of the second chapter of Kathopanishad shall be explained by Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir. Let us chant the Shanti mantra to conclude today's session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Shri Krishna. Namaste.